none, we'll move to the minutes. I think there's been a change in the last page.
Yes, and on page 4, just to be in compliance with the law, there needed to be a statement that I was provided prior written notice that my job performance would be discussed at the last meeting, and that I could require that the discussion be held during the open session. So it's in the minutes now. And the only other change is in identifying, Bill helped me to identify who moved and who seconded in executive session last month. So that's the change. Page 4, you have the executive session minutes separately in your package.
You guys want to take a minute to...
I already looked at it.
So I'll entertain a motion. Motion made. Second. Made and second. Great, thank you. So going on to...
All in favor?
Oh, sorry, yeah, I haven't done this in a while. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, abstentions. Got item 4.
And then we'll do Eric.
Eric.
Yeah, thank you. So this is for load, relocate, place, and stack concrete barrier system. Back in 2019, RIPA entered into a lease with Lindsay Barrier for 1,432 pieces for a period of 14 months in connection with the contract 1903, which was the last contract for the Newport Pell deck rehabilitation. In the lease, it states that RIPA is responsible for all, quote, loading, trucking, and unloading, end quotes, to and from location designated by Lindsay within 125 miles from the job site, which happened to be, and still happens to be, a lay-down yard in Milford, Connecticut. These costs were in addition to the lease of $502,900 for the 14-month period. At the end of the project, we stockpiled the barrier over in Newport, and in order to try to save some money in not having to return as much barrier as possible, we worked with Lindsay to find a contractor that needed some barrier that would be willing to come pick it up over in Newport instead. And we were somewhat successful. We ended up removing 900 pieces from our responsibility in that manner, and it left 532 pieces. We've since been working with Lindsay to find another contractor, and we've been unsuccessful, and we've been lucky that we've had a good relationship with Lindsay, that we've been able to hold on to the barrier without having to return it while we tried. But they have finally requested it back because of some demand up and down the East Coast for some barriers. They need it back in their yard. So we put out a bid for this this process to pick up the 532 pieces, bring them over to Milford and offload them. And we received 3 bids in response to the IFB, ranging from $36,875 to $117,000. J.H. Lynch had the lowest bid, $36,875, and was determined to be the most responsive to the IFB. So we're recommending that we approve a purchase order with J.H. Lynch Incorporated in the amount of $36,875 to load, relocate, place, and stack the concrete barrier system. And at the end of this, all obligations with Lindsay Barrier will be completed.
Is there a motion? Motion's made. Seconded. Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, unanimously carried. Thank you. And 5.
Yep, I think that one too. This one is for scaffolding, rental, delivery, assembly, and dismantling. Last painting season, we had painters working on, we rented an aerial lift, and we had painters working on most of the north pier vents, the steel pier vents of the Mount Hope Bridge. One pier vent, the northernmost one, up closest to the north abutment, due to the rugged terrain, we were not able to access it with the lift. So that one remains, and we discussed other means of getting up to that pier vent and being able to get it painted so that we could complete that whole row of pier vents. And scaffolding became the only option. So we reached out, we put together an IFB, information for bid, and we reached out to some rental and delivery companies that could provide the scaffolding, assemble, and dismantle at the end of the job. And we asked for a monthly rate with a rate for any additional days if we exceeded that first month of work. 3 bids were received in response to the IFE. These ranged from $19,950 for the first month and $55.36 for the extra days each day, to $61,680 a month with $553.57 per day extra. After evaluating the bids, the lowest bid by Triple G Scaffold Services in the amount of $19,950 a month and $55.36 per day was determined to be the most responsive to the IFB. And we're recommending approval of a purchase order with Triple G Scaffold Services for these amounts, and also an approval to expend up to an additional $1,720 to cover up to 1 additional month of scaffolding if necessary at the daily rate.
Motion?
Make a motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussions, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, unanimously carried. 6.
Number 6 is the Jamestown horizontal bridge crack monitoring, which I've brought for discussion in previous meetings. Just over a year ago, when we were updating the load rating for Jamestown Bridge, which hadn't been done in 8 years, which is the maximum allowed by Federal Highway. Due to a change in the load rating manual that Federal Highway made, it does not allow cracks to be in a concrete structure of this type. But back when this bridge was designed 31 years ago plus, actually, during the design, it was allowed. They're shear cracks, they're normal for a structure of this type as of back then. Today, they're not allowed. So what happened during the load rating is it basically, for serviceability, does not rate, so to speak. Does not mean anything about the bridge not being safe. The bridge handles the loads just as it always has, but it doesn't comply with the manual. So we're not able to have a load rating, technically per the manual, posted for this bridge because of this. What we did was we met with Federal Highway and RIDOT and had a discussion on this to come up with a mitigation plan. Federal Highway is currently in the process of looking at this load rating manual because there's other bridges across the country that are in this same situation. They recognize that there's a shortfall in the load rating manual to try to correct it and come up with a way for folks like us with this type of a bridge to address it and probably have an exemption of some sort for this condition. One of the methods of mitigating in the meantime was to institute a bridge crack monitoring program. So we sat and we scoped one out. Due to the estimated high cost of it, we put it out for cost proposals to our qualified on-call consultants, and we received 4 quotes ranging from $202,227 to $435,339.81. This consists of an initial inspection of the cracks. The scope was very detailed that we provided, so it specifies how many cracks need to be monitored. It specifies all the deliverables. So part of the deliverables will be the initial inspection report with the results. And then, moving forward for a period of 2 years, we will receive quarterly reports of what the crack monitors that are installed are showing. So we'll have that laid out for a period of 2 years. So this will go on until the end of that. At that time, we will then talk with Federal Highway, see if we need to continue, see how they're doing with their load rating manual updates, and move forward from there. The lowest quote was by a company called AI Engineers, one of our on-calls. We held interviews with 2 of the lowest companies, make sure that everybody understood the scope fully since the pricing varied so much. And we're comfortable with the pricing by AI Engineers. They've worked on similar bridges of this type for similar tasks. So we would like to recommend that we approve the attached proposal by AI Engineers in the amount not to exceed $202,227.
Is there a motion? Motion's made. Seconded. Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimously carried. Moving right along this morning. 7.
Hi, that's me. The towing department would like to exercise the last year extension on the contract 19-6 for our on-call towing consulting services. Back in May of 2019, we first proposed for 6 on-call toll consultants, which were for 3 years except term with an optional for 2 additional 1-year terms. This is our last 1-year term extension that we would be wanting to exercise, but instead of doing it for the 6, we would just like to do for the current 3 that we are working with, which is Stantec Consulting, WSP, and Gannett Fleming. We will be going out for our FQ in the summer of 2023 for the remaining for other on-call consultants at that time.
Motion? Discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimous. Guys, on fire this morning.
Must be the leadership.
So, Director's Engineering Capital Projects. Status.
I'll take that one as well. Pier 5W girder temporary shoring and bearing removal and replacement. We have a meeting actually tomorrow with Cardi to discuss remobilizing on site and completing the remaining items of work, which will ultimately result in the replacement of the bearings after we discuss the jacking methods that they proposed. We had to wait because we ran late last year and ran into temperature concerns, so we decided to wait until this spring when the temperatures return to a normal range. Phase 2 AET final design for the roadway out here with the new gantry. We have a 75% design in hand, and we're proceeding towards 100% design. We hold bi-weekly meetings, and everything seems to be going along as planned. We expect that to stay on schedule. Mount Hope Bridge suspension cables and anchorages investigation and dehumidification is in design. We actually had AECom out on Mount Hope Bridge yesterday doing a walk of both cables in their complete length. And they're actually here for the next couple of days, so they'll be doing a lot of work on looking into the anchor. Today they're going down into the anchorages of the bridge to get a good view inside, take some photos, and then they'll proceed to work towards a 30% design package for us. ATMS Bridge Safety and Video Analytics, we continue to do testing with Parsons. We've had some mixed results, some success, some issues we're still working through on the system. However, it is operational, it's just not fully tested and accepted at this point, but we have had some success to date now. It's been somewhat encouraging with that system. Safety measures feasibility study. This is for the proposed safety barriers on Mount Hope Bridge and Jamestown Bridge. Coincidentally, yesterday we had Atkins also out on Mount Hope Bridge with their team doing a walk of the entire bridge in preparation for moving forward with this analysis. And today they're actually out on Jamestown on the bridge deck doing their walk out there as well. Then they'll continue on with their feasibility study. And load ratings and inspections currently are pretty much complete. We're just waiting for a few reports to come in, and then with the approval of the track monitoring plan, we'll move forward with that. We'll issue the notice of proceeding and get that one underway as well. So that's it. Any questions?
Questions from anyone? Good, awesome, thank you. So, financial reports.
Good morning.
Morning.
Total revenue is higher than budget by $6 million, or 23%. Toll revenue was higher by $6.7 million and was partially offset by the lower gas tax proceeds of $700,000. Overall operating expenses were lower than budget by $600,000, resulting in operating profit exceeding budget by $6.6 million. The specific operating expenses that were higher than budget are the direct result of the higher revenue, specifically the bill by mail transactions. These expenses include postage, supplies, including envelopes and paper, and credit card fees. Katie and the tolling operations team have implemented a plan to consolidate invoices, which should reduce these costs of these items in the future. The major operating expense item that was lower than budget for the bridge inspections. This is due to a mix of the timing of the expenses and the overall lower cost of the task orders as a result of seeking multiple bids for the specific inspections. Preliminary March numbers also look positive when compared to budget, and for March, traffic was 2% higher than 2022 and came in at 99% of pre-COVID levels. Through the first 10 days of April, traffic is trending at 102% of 2022 levels. We continue to look for opportunities to reduce expenses. As an example, we pay nearly $10,000 for the phone service in the towers at the Newport Bell Bridge. And work with our phone consultant, we have a plan of action to reduce this cost by 90%. So that's a quick overview, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Reduction of 90%?
Reduction of 90%. Yep. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have with respect to the commentary.
Great report. No questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're going to move on to the executive director's report. Larry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, of course, I get to steal really what is Jeff's part, which is the toll revenue bond rating upgrade. Our whole team did a great job of working. We worked with Maureen Verhigian and Hilltop Securities, and had the great result of going from an A- to an A in our toll revenue bond rating. Just so that we didn't get too cocky about it, we had the possibility that our outlook was going to go from stable to positive, so we have a new goal, which is it stayed at stable, but we're hoping that next time it'll go to positive, so that will be even better. In the meantime, I've left a letter at your place settings that we sent to the House Finance Committee to let the House Finance Committee know of the upgrading of the bond revenue. So that was great news for us.
I have a question, Laura.
Just,
Yes.
did the grant, the $82 million grant influence this rating in any way? How does that figure in, or does it?
I would say the fact that, and maybe Jeff would be better to answer, but I think the quick answer is that the availability of other funds frees up funds within our capital plan. So certainly it was a factor. Would you add
Agree.
to that?
It helps improve our ratios, our debt coverage ratios, by having the federal funds. The only difference was that project, the $137 million project, only $70 million was actually in our 10-year capital plan. So we actually brought in another roughly $70 million. But overall, they see it as a positive.
Good. Makes sense. Good. Thanks.
Tolling operations, we have been listening to the elected officials in our host communities who have asked us, who have communicated their constituents' concerns about needing more customer-friendly hours. So we did a pilot program having evening hours. It was amazing. We did it on somewhat short notice. It was amazing that word got out. And we had a very good response to that on consecutive Thursday evenings when we had the walk-in center open from 4 to 7 p.m. It was interesting to see. We're still analyzing the results of that, but one of the primary customer bases represented in those 2 evenings was commercial accounts. So people with small businesses who just couldn't get here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 1. Of course, they always have the opportunity to do it online or call or go to AAA. But if they'd rather come here, the evening hours were more friendly for them, so they took advantage of that. So we're still analyzing the results of that to see how we will go forward. We're still looking at other options for making the Easy Pass and tolling operations more customer friendly. Federal funding, we're still waiting. So we had understood that end of February, beginning of March, we would hear the results of the Small Bridge Investment Program submissions. That would be for the bundled project of the dehumidification of the Mount Hope Bridge and the redecking of the Mount Hope Bridge. We're still waiting. We think that the Secretary and the Department of Transportation may be sharing information, certainly with the President, and that may be the reason that it's all of these projects are still under review to see which will be the successful projects. Also, Jeff and Eric and I appeared before Senate Finance with the IIJA task force. which is charged with the responsibility of coordinating all of the federal funding projects here in the state of Rhode Island. So we appeared before Senator DePalma's committee with RIDOT, with RIPTA, with the Office of Energy Resources, the Infrastructure Bank, and we were the fifth component to present to the Senate Finance Committee on the federal funding that we've received and the submissions that are awaiting review at the federal level. I think that Senator DePalma was interested in making certain that not only his constituents but all Rhode Islanders know how this money is being spent, how what money has been received, how it will be spent, what money we're still hoping to get. So it was I think a good deed done for all. General Assembly 2023 session. Primarily what we have pending is a bill that new Rep. Alex Finkelman here in Jamestown has sponsored for us together with other reps in the area, in our host communities, and there's been a companion bill submitted in the Senate. It would change the time for paying your first toll notice that's received in the mail from 14 days to 30 days. It will need a sub-A to also change the second notice from 45 days to 60 days. I've talked about this at other meetings. While it would be nice to have our money sooner, it makes more sense for our customer service team to be attending to more challenging issues than simply responding to calls from people for whom the mail arrived while they were on vacation or they were ill or whatever for a couple of weeks, and now it's day 14, and so those aren't really the calls we want. We want to be helping people with more complicated tolling issues. So that's the so that was heard before House Committee on State Government, and we certainly are hoping that will move forward because it's a win-win situation. And then finally, the State of the State's Bridges. We held our second annual meeting where we invited the elected officials from the host communities to come here and hear about what we do all day. What we do all day in all the different departments here, and what we are pursuing in terms of federal funding, the projects to be funded. We had representatives of the communities, and we also had representatives from the leadership of the General Assembly. And finally, we had someone from FHWA, the bridge engineer for the region, Anthony Rotundo, who was very helpful. And actually and then the new regional director of the FHWA, the new Carlos Machado, is Derek Torrey, who just moved here from DC, and he paid us a visit last week, and we were very encouraged. He brought Anthony Rotundo with him again, and the two of them were very helpful in saying that they're here to help us with anything that we need. So we felt like we established a good relationship, a good introduction to our new regional director of the FHWA. So that is my report for the month.
Sounds great. Confidence is high here.
Yeah.
So, is there any other business discussions? Move for motion for adjournment. Motion's made, seconded, and that's unanimous. Thank you.